Imperial Life in the Emerald City by Rajiv Chandrasekaran, aka Green Zone, is a 2006 um, book about the main base in Baghdad and the U.S. occupation of Iraq in the 2003 Iraq War, and some of their operations in trying to set up Iraq as a free, help the Iraqis rebuild their government. So, the politics of this author, whose name I cannot pronounce, who was there as a journalist, heavily involved in documenting and are pretty obvious from the get-go, and a lot of his well-documented evidence throughout this extremely depressing book is so indisputable and well argued with evidence and facts and figures and stuff that you can look up on credible databases, to basically make the point that most likely corruption in U.S. government and military and the overall lack of education and blind subservience to toxic levels of American, pride kind of started to just show ironic levels of bad international policy making that led to the Iraq War, which led to huge amounts of wasted money and deaths of U.S. Marines personnel, Iraqis, and in the eyes of the world, who knows what sort of damage was done to our country's reputation. And so it really aims to make everyone involved, from Rumsfeld to the other names of the key people involved, as incompetent buffoons, but at the same time it does make an even stronger argument by demonstrating the things that they accomplished that led to small successes in the same time. But it's really attacking the far right Republican ideology of that era of the Bush administration that is, as a politically conservative leaning dude myself, I never really understood, even as a kid, why we were involved in Afghanistan and Iraq, and I just always assumed that there was some shady aspects of our government profiting, because everything's always about money. Every war is about money, probably, in the post-World War II. It's not really about nationalism or preserving or perpetuating ideologies, unless it's crazy radical religious militant groups like ISIS or something. But anyway, this book is just mostly I want to say that there's some credible history. Now, if there's exaggerations, it's not in terms of relaying history, it's selective history, meaning it's only showing the negatives and focusing on the negatives so much as a selling point, which comes off in bad taste, obviously, and shows the sort of counter-patriotism that this author, while I respect for trying to sell this story as informing the public to get people to rethink the moral ethics that led to the Iraq War and the U.S.'s involvement, which we all know was centralized government, the government acting outside of the favor of the people, which they have been for the last many decades in this country, as the business and big government have, and collaborating with other big corrupt businesses and governments throughout the entire world for things that are too complex that I don't understand. And reading books like this to try to educate myself, is obvious that the spirit of democracy has been dead for a long time. And the irony of a lot of the low-ranking, impressionable servicemen who were suckered into the hype bandwagon of doing good, finding weapons of mass destruction, getting involved in the Iraq War, getting recruited and going out and trying to police the world and such, coming to that reality, similar to, I guess, what Paul Greengrass was going and demonstrating the fictional character that Matt Damon played as one of them in the film adaptation of this book, which bears no resemblance to the actual book, but it's still, nonetheless, it's sort of like a neutral piece of propaganda that is ironically pretty indisputable for anyone with half a brain, who conservatives tend to be more, it's like, informed into actual facts of certain of these um, controversial historical events, but it's it's altogether just shows that it's just endless corruption, a convoluted mess. The title is accurate: Imperial Life in the Emerald City, but it does not. One criticism I have for the author is that it does not give actual credibility to the good intentions of the vast majority of the military and servicemen involved, um, and it's for that it comes off as blatantly, shamefully unpatriotic, in a way that feels slightly traitorous. But I at the same time feel divided because I thank this author for making such a good report on the mess of the situation. You know, I don't think there were. I think there were more bad things than good that came out of the Iraq War. But I will be reading more. I cannot really say because it's not something that I can wrap my mind around because there's so many factors. And so this is my introduction into what I want to read more history books and more, especially about the Iraq War in general and the war in Afghanistan, and the Gulf War and Vietnam. And so I'm studying various I'm starting with American wars, or wars in which America was involved, because it fascinates me for many reasons I don't have time to get into, as I will be reading and doing more reviews on this war. I may look back with some of my opinions on this book now based on my limited understanding presently and cringe, but I think that I've learned a lot from this book, and so I do recommend it. I give it like I would say it'd be good for like pro-military mindsets, conservatives who might have a biased view towards the actions that the U.S. military goes through, in order to like rethink their level of involvement with the military. It's just good. It's just another good book to add to your arsenal of different points of view on the event, rather than getting in some sort of conservative echo chamber, which, if books like this didn't exist, would be easier and easier to get locked into. So, but it's still I've warned you, comes off in bad taste in many areas. It's very un-American in spirit, which I don't get offended by things. I can respect people's differing opinions and agreements and listen to the arguments that they have, because it is very morally gray, just like this author, just like the Iraq War. It's filled with good, horrible things. I mean, good things and horrible things at the same time. And some of the intentions of this author are scummy, and some of them are, for all I know, genuinely noble and insightful and altruistic. And everybody involved in reporting on it is trying to do the right thing. But in war, everything is fucked. And so, basically, it's hard. It's hard to read because it's just so depressing. Because of, you realize the scope of just the ignorance and the lack of true care and education of some of the people involved, which our nation is to blame, and just the misinformation and the corrupt cells and the deep state and the military that encouraged the Bush administration to just press go and just go in and invade Baghdad, and just the whole shebang is just, it's just something that I don't want to support in any way, or claim to be, or ever say like it's. I know some people do the opposite. Some people want to dig up and look at the negative and just say, oh, well, this absolutely nothing good came out of U.S.'s involvement in Iraq, dethroning Saddam and everything. And you know what? I would say, like, I get the intention of those people, usually on the left side of things, my friends on the left, but that's not true because it's not totally accurate. For example, the presence in the Middle East that the Iraq War helped fortify, however indirectly, helped train the Iraqi military to demolish ISIS when ISIS was trying to take over that part of the world, culminating in the Battle of Mosul and such. And so this author couldn't have seen that coming. And so I'm not a military strategist or have any sort of deeper insight into the thoughts and value systems of the people of the Middle East beyond just a very, very basic, like, amateur's education on. Just read a few things, a few books. But it's something that I want to get more and more involved in. So whatever influence I have as a artist or creator of content online potentially in the future might spread the truth about information on these. But as you know, if you've seen any of my videos, I have no filters, and I never will, with my opinions and my value judgments. Usually it concerns art and fiction, but I do take time to read history as well. So I do recommend this book to anyone who's curious about some of the hard evidence of some of the doings of some of the agendas and people and individuals and systems involved that created the fucking mess of the Iraq War in 2003. So 8 out of 10. Yeah, it's all right. Movie was